being dysfunctional. It forced me to educate myself. I wanted to be able to understand what was supposed to happen, what was happening, and address my concerns in an intelligent manner. So I had to go to votes. I learned more from you guys than I ever did in any civics class ever. Because of you, I'm going to read this off. I have read the entire municipal code for Tarrant City multiple times. Most of the Alabama state constitution, and oh my God, that girl is long. The handbook for mayors and councils published by the Alabama League of Municipalities, the selected readings for the municipal officer, also known as Alabama municipalities. A bunch of Supreme Court readings, court filings, ethic computations, and in honor of Mr. Bryant, Robert's Rules of Parliamentary Procedure. I've read all of that and educated myself. So I just wanted to thank you, because I never would have learned any of this stuff if y'all learned to work together and work as one. So now, you don't have to deal with me. I know you're happy to say that. So I'm going to end with a quote from our mayor, who's been made famous, and a few court filings.
F you, F you, F you. You're cool. F you, and I'm out. Good morning. Rise and freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show on the 4 Liberty Network. Nice to see you. We're hanging out in the Rumble chat with Thormock. That's one of our newbies. Y2 Joe 1983, T-Mill 22, Caleb Vanderfelt's Joni Rankin looking kind of cute. Liberty Tonight Show. What's up, everybody? Let's get this show on the road. Time to wake up. It's Thursday, July the 10th. You are tuned in to Wake Up America, the show that refuses to file for moral bankruptcy, even if our government already has. Yes. Today's show is hotter than Janet Yellen's inflation chart and twice as dangerous. We're opening with the story that every politician pretends isn't real. America is broke. And I don't mean check engine light broke. I mean Repo Man in the driveway broke. Oh, God. But it's not just a numbers show only today. No, sir. We got King Libertarian joining us at 7:30 to talk about El Salvador. President Nayib Bukele. Which accent do I use for this? Arab or El Salvadorian? They wrote the plot. He just threw a Bitcoin haymaker at the U.S. Senate. They threatened him over cryptocurrency, and he basically told them, thanks for the concern. My country's up 137%. I don't know how to do that accent. That's what you call fiscal flex. Fiscal flex. What's up, Arnie Styles? John and KC is here as well. It's nice to see all of our friends. You know what to do. Click the like button. If today's your first time watching the Wake Up America show, we'd love to have you be a regular guest. Make sure you click the follow button. It's a really big show. If you're 90 years old, you get that reference. Join us here Mondays through Fridays, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. It's a 2-hour live show, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. Dad Bod Baboon is here. L-Dubs is here. The whole gang. We can start the show now. All right. Okay, so Nayib Bukele, the U.S. Senate Democrats threatening him. Nayib Bukele kind of gives them the F-U by posting his cryptocurrency results from his country's investments into Bitcoin on X. That's a flex. I like this guy. I know he's no Javier Milei, but I like Nayib Bukele in El Salvador. All right, so if that wasn't juicy enough, King and I will also, the King and I, Uncle Tom Cabin. Nobody remembers King and I? Jesus. Nobody's grandma sat down and showed them all the great musicals. Was that Julie Andrews as well? Yul Brynner, etc., etc. All right, Austin, shut up. All right, King and I will also unpack the George Santos. I'm pretty sure Joni Rankin's getting these jokes. The King and I will also unpack the Santos saga. George Santos is headed to jail and making it clear that he doesn't plan to end up in Epstein's bunk bed. Oh my God, George. He should have never stepped down from Congress. He says he's not suicidal and he will refuse to submit to forced sex. And to that, America says, we didn't ask. Uncle Tom Cabin. At 8 a.m., we bring on the ever-sharp Camellia Peterson. She's going to break down what's going on with Elon Musk's chatbot Grok, which, according to the Associated Press, has morphed into Mecha Hitler. You say not Mega Hitler, Mecha, like M-E-C-H-A, Mecha. People say Mecha. I said Mecha, Mecha pizza. Another dated reference, Austin. Damn, you're old. Apparently defending free speech now gets you labeled an AI fascist. Meanwhile, Linda Yaccarino, the handpicked CEO of X, just quit. I'll ask Camellia, was Linda push or did she just run out of blue check marks to ban? We'll talk to Camellia Peterson about that at 8 a.m. Central Time. It's going to be a great show. At 8:30 a.m., the bold and brilliant Daniela Pensack joins us from Culturama to talk about skinny talk. And they don't spell it with a Y. They have to do like annoying mean girl shit. And they spell skinny now. They're spelling it S-K-I-N-N-I, you know, to like make it cute. Like you're not just skinny anymore. You're skin-eye, right? Skinny, right? Skinny talk. It's kind of this dystopian corner of the internet where influencers are selling private chats to teach teenage girls how to starve themselves. It's monetized anorexia, essentially, and Silicon Valley is cashing in. We're going to talk about what it means for young women and for America's cultural health with Daniela Pensack at 8:30 a.m. Central Time. And that all gave me an idea of a new way to monetize my streams. You guys know the meme, right? I need to get the hook nose. But I was thinking about selling subscriptions, $50 a pop, teaching people how to use artificial intelligence tools. What do you guys think? Showing you how to take your business to the next level. I'm thinking about doing something like that. What do you think? Would you pay a $50 subscription for me to teach you how to save thousands of dollars on your business, or how to run your business more effectively, or how to create all of the amazing graphics and videos and things that you see on the Wake Up America show? I think people would do that. Well, if you have a better idea of things that you think that I could share with my audience at a subscription level that you guys would pay for, then I'd love to hear your thoughts. You can send them as a text message at 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. And speaking of, don't forget, we do have bonus content today. So drop those Rumble rants early and often, or visit the Grift Shop at thegriftshop.com and make a purchase. All of the purchases that are made during the live show this morning between 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time on the 10th, as we are listening to this live, will unlock the bonus content. So when we hit $75 raised, instead of watching commercials when I go to my guests, and I have 3 guests, so that's at least 3 commercial breaks, guys, you can watch the bonus content instead simply by unlocking that bonus content. The easiest, simplest way, drop a Rumble rant where you're watching us live. But if you're watching us somewhere on some other platform and you say, you know what, I'd like to contribute and be a part of this, just visit the Grift Shop at thegriftshop.com. Buy yourself a box of delicious Founding Flavors coffee, perhaps a t-shirt, maybe an Alligator Alcatraz t-shirt or an End the Fed shirt. Make sure that you check that out at thegriftshop.com. That's thegriftshop.com. Let's get those Rumble rants rolling and unlocking that bonus content. Let's do it. First, let's talk about something that's even more dangerous than Mecha Hitler, or than Mecha Hitler, or George Santos. The debt bomb ticking underneath our economy. The Wall Street Journal just published a piece titled "Make America Solvent Again," and folks, this is about as close as you'll ever get to a financial obituary written in real time. Our national debt has crossed $36 trillion, and just servicing the interest on that debt is now more expensive than our entire defense budget. Think about that. We could fund tanks, ships, jets, thousands of soldiers, or we could just pay interest. That's what we're doing right now. That's right. Just paying interest, right? It's the worst thing that you could waste money on because it gets you nothing, right? It's like taking a payday loan to fix a hole in your sinking yacht. You know, Moody's is hinting at another credit downgrade. We're reading this morning, Jamie Dimon, he usually sounds like a hedge fund version of Alexa, is now warning that the bond market could crack not Ripple, not strain, crack. And these are people who Jamie Dimon makes his money on betting that America is not going to fail. So you know it's bad when the guys on Wall Street start sounding like Ron Paul. Let's talk Turkey here. Our national debt is now over $36.6 trillion with a T, trillion with a T, $276,000 per taxpayer and growing. Now, I'm going to break this down in terms that even Washington might be able to understand. Probably not. If the government were a family, they'd be earning $100,000 a year, spending $150,000, and carrying $1 million in credit card debt. And their big idea to fix it will be to apply for another card. Yeah. So we're now spending more on interest payments than we are on Medicare, on national defense, or veterans benefits. Just the interest. We're paying to borrow money that's already spent, and we're not even chipping away at the principal. It's like using a payday loan to pay off your last payday loan. And they call this a budget. This is a hostage note to future generations. Let's go through some stats. We've got the interest on the debt in 2024, $1.1 trillion. All right, defense spending comes in second, $850 billion. Third place, Social Security, Medicare combined, $2.3 trillion. The debt to GDP ratio, 124%. The CBO is projecting 129% by 2033. The projected interest by 2050, over $5 trillion annually. Let that sink in. By 2050, 25 years from now, when I'm thinking about retiring, right, over $5 trillion annually is what we're looking at just in projected interest rates. Do you think that the United States economy is going to be able to grow its way to a situation where it could pay for all of and it's going to grow the Social Security, Medicare? Do you think that defense spending, everything's going to go up? $5 trillion interest payments annually. Let that sink in. Andy Opperman says, it has always amazed me how we can calculate temperature differences for CO2 output for decades in the future, but the debt math is just too hard. Bonus content. We're all well on our way, Andy. Thanks to you. All right, let's name names. I mean, it's not a red versus blue issue. This is red ink versus common sense. Republicans like to talk about fiscal responsibility until they get in power. Then it's tax cuts and military hikes without spending cuts. Democrats claim to care about working families while they vote for trillion-dollar green slush funds and student loan bailouts that benefit the Harvard class. And together, of course, they passed a $3.3 trillion bipartisan budget bill with barely a press conference. And what did that bill include? Hundreds of billions for climate pork, expansion of entitlement programs, zero meaningful cuts to discretionary spending, and a promise that we'll figure out how to pay for it later. So this is the problem. This is the uniparty, the bipartisan conspiracy of cowardice. Both parties have become co-conspirators in a generational theft operation. They're not stealing your money. They're stealing your children's money. All right, let's talk about what happens next if we stay on this path. Inflation doesn't just return. It becomes a way of life. We'll wait until the global bond markets start dumping U.S. treasuries and the Fed has to start buying our own debt. That's like a dog eating its own tail, except the dog is your paycheck. Japan and China, two of our biggest creditors, have already started cutting back their U.S. bond purchases. They're diversifying. You know why? Because they don't want to be left holding the bag. They don't want to be left holding the bag when Uncle Sam finally defaults silently or loudly. The bond market revolts. JP Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon has warned the bond market may crack. That's not a right-wing talking point. That's a banker. Bankers are like sharks. They don't panic unless there's blood in the water. Right? Social Security plus Medicare, we're 9 years away from insolvency. This is not talk radio fear-mongering. This is the Congressional Budget Office. And if you think that there's going to be, when there's $5 trillion a year in just interest payments, even if you think that future generations will just pay it off, what future generations?
The birth rate is very low in almost every country. And unless that changes, civilization will disappear. America had the lowest birth rate, I believe, ever. That was last year. Places like Korea, the birth rate is 1/3 replacement rate. So that means in 3 generations, Korea will be 3 or 4% of its current size. And nothing seems to be turning that around. Humanity is dying. And people, it's just not something we evolved to react to. The birth rate is very low.
Yeah, how'd you guys like that transition, by the way, to that clip? I feel like I need a little pat on the back there. So here's some audience engagement prompts. Questions for my audience. Do you trust the government to solve the crisis that it created? How much more debt would you personally allow before saying enough? And would you give your teenager a credit card with no limit and no job? That's what we've done in Washington, D.C. You know, I remember way back in 2008 when I was a handsome young man in my late 20s, living and working in Washington, D.C. I went to one of those meetings in D.C. that all the conservatives go to. And they were debating this was in the time between George W. Bush and Obama taking over. And they were talking about the first round of TARP stimulus bailouts. And the room was divided between, and this is at like a fiscal conservative hangout, the room was divided between people who did not want to do bailouts of the economy to make accounts for the 2008 financial crisis. They did not want to do stimulus bailouts, of the banks, Lehman Brothers, Bear Stearns. And I remember the other half of the room were all investors or bankers, or they're the kind, what do you call them? They're the Chamber of Commerce conservatives, if to use a phrase. Chamber of Commerce conservatives are not fiscal conservatives. They're we call them business conservatives in the business. A business conservative is someone who wants to steal all taxpayer dollars in order to help businesses and hamstring other businesses to help some businesses that pay politicians to help those businesses and not help other businesses, but they're there in order to look like they're pro-business. But certain businesses, not your business, if you compete with them, absolutely not. You'll pay the tariffs, you'll pay the taxes, and you will pay the labor fees and regulations while they get away with hiring illegals and doing shit. So what do? We stop pretending math is negotiable, right? We demand balanced budgets, not fantasy math with 30-year projections. Right? We elect people who will say no, not people who sign every bill with a pen and a smile. Because let me tell you something, this isn't just about money. This is about national security. This is about our sovereignty and whether or not we survive as a functioning republic or collapse into a debtor state with printing press and a prayer. We're going to need new leaders, new thinking, and a whole lot less spending, or the phrase "Make America Solvent Again" is going to become a punchline in the history books. And one man who I think could potentially help us is the one man the White House seems intent on making war with, Elon Musk.
Similar. The president was very, very kind to him. And Elon had so much to offer us. He knew things we didn't know. He knew people and technologies that we didn't know. It was a great thing when it was a great thing. And I had a very troublesome ending.
Why do you think that happened?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't understand it. I don't know. I know that what has been said doesn't ring accurate to me, but I don't know. I enjoyed working with Elon. I think he's a fascinating person and sees the world differently. And I think that's probably what the president saw too, just a little bit different than the average Joe. But it certainly came to not a good ending.
Yeah, no kidding. That's Susie Wiles. She's like President Trump's top fixer. Elon Musk has a lot to offer. He knows people. He's got access to and knowledge about technology that even the Trump administrations have. They need to bring him back into the fold. They need to bring him back into the tent. Elon Musk needs to not go off half-cocked and start this America party. I gave an interview to the Epoch Times yesterday about Elon Musk and why I'm not supporting the America party. I almost called it the Elon party. It might as well be. Despite the fact that I support everything else that Elon is doing, I supported him in his dust-up against President Trump. I absolutely agree with him when it comes to the spending of the big, beautiful bill. I think it's time for us to now that we have the majority, now that we have the White House, now that we have a simple majority in the in Congress and that we have the Supreme Court, now is the time to be making spending cuts. No, instead we're buying off SALT deductions for corrupt New York politicians and officials, for them to have people like Zoran Mandani screw their local people, and then the rest of the country has to bail out New York because Albany can't get their shit together. No, we have to assuage the climate communists in California make sure that the Green New Deal is properly funded. No. It's not the people that won the election that need to get what we demanded and what we voted for. It's the people who didn't win the election that need to get what they wanted. It's not the people who help to make the MAGA coalition. It's not people like me who went to our regional conferences, went to our state conferences, supported Trump, not who spent a lot of time and energy going out there. Not people like me. No, people like me need to pay higher tariffs because fuck capitalism and limited government. We need to celebrate higher prices. I thought I was voting for lower prices. I really got annoyed this morning, and like my inner nationalist started to come out when this Vince Dow guy, who I like personally, he's a conservative kid. He's this Asian conservative kid. But, I get so tired of some of these right-wingers who are like these like super hyper-nationalist types on the right, who on one hand will say things like, oh, the tariffs, the prices didn't go up. The tariffs are a big success. And it's an Asian guy lecturing me when 6 weeks ago, the thing that the nationalists were all saying was like, which of your ancestors fought in the Civil War? Well, which of your ancestors fought in the Civil War, Vince Dow? Wait, Charlie, Jumao? How many generations of Americans have you been? Oh, we don't want to import the third world to the United States. Well, then why are we importing the third world economic ideas to the United States? God damn it. Which of your ancestors fought in the Civil War? I want to know. Guess what? Mine, Nance Davis, Missouri Infantry, wounded in Mississippi, returned back to Missouri, a hero of the Confederacy. It's true, look it up. Yes. We have so many jokes. And we have so many guests. Coming up at 7:30, King Libertarian joins me to talk about a country that did get bold with its financial strategy, El Salvador. Ay-ay! President Bukele bought Bitcoin, told the IMF to get lost, and just told the U.S. Senate we're up 137%. Thanks for your concern. Compare that to America's 137% debt to GDP ratio. You tell me who's winning. This is Wake Up America. Are you woken up yet? Don't get woke. Just get awoken. You're awake, not awoke. Just a joke. Well, God, Austin. Terrible. You're terrible. Go to commercial break, right? Keep unlocking that bonus content. You won't have to see no commercials. It's the Wake Up America show on the 4 Liberty Network.
Here at Alligator Alcatraz, the fence keeps them in. But slip up, and you're on my plate.
Looks like breakfast is making a run for it. We got 3 hot meals trying to check out early from Alligator Alcatraz.
They can splash, they can sprint, but there's no escaping Alligator Alcatraz. Caught 2. The third? Huh. The swamp's got its own way of catching runaways.
Mama was wrong. Gators don't need toothbrushes. Just an honest job making America great again.
This summer isn't about sunscreen and safe spaces. It's about liberty, laughs, and looking like a red, white, and righteous badass. Welcome to the Summer of Freedom collection. Beach towels bold enough to trigger a liberal arts professor. Tank tops louder than a 4th of July fireworks finale. And mugs that scream, "Don't tread on my caffeine." Whether you're storming the sandbar or just grilling like George Washington with a Bluetooth speaker, this is the gear that lets everyone know. You're not here to play woke. You're here to play cornhole with conviction. So crack open a cold one, fire up the freedom, and rock the merch that makes communists cry. The Summer of Freedom is here. And it's absolutely unapologetic. Patriots, listen up. The sun's out, the shades are on, and the Gulf of America is wide open for business. This summer, don't show up to the beach looking like a landlocked liberal. Gear up with the Gulf of America collection. Towels, tumblers, shirts, hats, fanny packs, because nothing says freedom like cannonballing into liberty with style. Whether you're grilling burgers, catching waves, or just flexing on social media, do it draped in stars, stripes, and pure American greatness. The Gulf of America isn't just a place, it's a lifestyle. Hit forlibertyshop.com and roll into summer like the Founding Fathers just handed you the keys to the coast. Beaches, BBQs, and bald eagles approved. You should too. Head over to forlibertyshop.com and get your Gulf of America gear. Summer is coming fast. That's forlibertyshop.com.
Welcome back to the Wake Up America show. I'm your host, Austin Peterson. So let me get this straight. A handful of U.S. senators, the people responsible for running our economy into $35 trillion of debt, are now threatening the president of a foreign country for investing in Bitcoin. Womp womp. It's not just any country. El Salvador, a nation run by a guy who looks like he beat half of our Congress in a push-up contest. He beat them half to death in a UFC fight. Can you imagine? Who would you have put up in a UFC fight? And it doesn't can't include anybody who was like the former Navy SEAL Republicans. It has to be a Democrat. All right, and Nayib Bukele, after suffering the slings and arrows of these outrageous fortunes, he posted a tweet mocking them, which was his country's Bitcoin investment, which is up 137%. Congratulations, El Salvador. Meanwhile, how's your 401k doing? Still struggling under Bidenomics? Spoiler alert, I think that your 401k is not 137% up. This is what happens when bureaucrats see somebody succeeding without them. They panic, they cry, and then they threaten sanctions. Bukele has done more for El Salvador's economy in 3 years than Joe Biden did for Delaware in 50 years. If only Hunter had put his laptop on the blockchain, maybe the Democrats would have defended that too. All right, coming up now, my brother in liberty and in chaos, King Libertarian joins us to discuss not just Bukele, but the fabulous George Santos saga. Santos, yes, the man, the myth, the mascara, the king of all libertarians joining us now. Good morning, oh wise leader.
Hola, Austin. Soy King Libertarian. Me gusta mucho la idea de El Salvador usando Bitcoin.
King, are you as inspired as I am that America's Senate now does foreign policy via passive-aggressive press releases?
Yes, of course. Also written by the most Gen Zer that they could find. With the haircut, I don't know what the boys are getting these days, but it looks like a Q-tip. I don't know.
They call it the Zoomer perm. They call it the Zoomer perm.
Okay, all right, yeah. I go about the peasants in Walmart, and mullets and Q-tip tops are
well, even worse. I think even worse than the Zoomer perm has got to be the Zoomer jeans that the TikTok jeans that the girls are wearing. Those big white acid wash, the thing like that. Can't even see a butt in there. I mean, it's sad. It's sad.
I'm glad that us millennials had the yoga pants. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, we had skinny jeans, yoga pants. We also had like the boot cut jeans there for a number of years. Everybody had a great ass, but nevertheless,
and we narrowly missed the pencil eyebrows too. That was late X.
Yes,
so we don't
the pencil eyebrows where they're like feathering it. King, oh wise king, yes. Talk to us about Nayib Bukele, the king of El Salvador.
Yes, he is one of these folks that, along the lines of our great Argentinian ANCAP, who are bucking the system. Yes, as they said in the chat, in jam, Bitcoin at 111,000 a Bitcoin. And it's really a good story about being financially independent, which I was listening to your show earlier and wish that we were on that train as well. So I know that Trump has talked about a strategic Bitcoin reserve. Is it too late? Some people think that it's going to be $1 million of Bitcoin before it's all said and done. So still time to get in early.
I actually would have preferred something like a strategic crypto reserve over the whole universal basic income camel nose under the tent with the Trump baby funds that they have going on. I mean, as someone who plans to have another future baby, yeah, it sounds great. But at the end of the day, I think America would be better served from, instead of redistributing wealth from one group of society to another, they already have cryptocurrency that they've seized from felons, people who've committed crimes. If the government were to just say, all right, let's take these assets and put them into a strategic cryptocurrency reserve, I think the country would be better off. Would you agree, O Wise King?
Oh, yes, of course. And, since all of that gold is definitely in Fort Knox, you could definitely convert some of that to Bitcoin, right? I mean, because it's so totally there.
Whatever happened to that, King? Because I was pretty sure that we were told that there was going to be some kind of an audit at Fort Knox. They were going to live stream it. I think people were even saying, you know what? It's the gold in Fort Knox is right next to Epstein's list.
Yes, that's right. They're going to audit it all. I mean, yeah, we're so far beyond that point. When Doge started to turn into a Doge pile out in the yard, I think that the audit of the Federal Reserve and the gold just it's way out there now.
Oh, Wise King. The President Trump has done so many wonderful things, and so many things, though, that were definite face plants. It is very cringe to have to watch the influencer class online flip-flop back and forth based on where President Trump goes. Why can't people just have some degree of intellectual honesty? Is it just that they're being paid, or are they really that like servile?
Well, when I came out with my viral tweet, saying that the Libertarian wing had dispatched from Trump after the Iran strike, I can see why these MAGA grifters are towing the line. I mean, the MAGA cultists are vicious, in their replies. But I will give them one thing: I did not receive a single death threat in my DMs. Unlike you, Austin, when you pissed off the Reddit liberals, I'm sure your inbox was quite creative.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, the grift that keeps on grifting, it's the cope. Everyone's in a cult. It's just what cult's yours, what bubble you're in. So I don't blame them at all, but it also does not make for good integrity. But that's why libertarians are unpopular, because we have integrity and we don't grift the grift at least too much.
Yes, but if we do grift, then it's only at thegriftshop.com. So for those who are into libertarian grifting, they should all visit thegriftshop.com. Specifically, the Liberty Tonight collection, highly recommended. If you're at the Grift Shop.
I didn't get the memo about the website change.
You didn't get
I love it.
No, it's the same. It's the same website. It just redirects. So just go to
of course.
Just go to the Grift. It's just marketing. Thegriftshop.com will take you to.
I love it.
The For Liberty shop.
When's the King shop coming out?
We need thekingshop.com. There you go. That's a great idea. So let's pivot here to America's most fabulous felon, George Santos. He says he's not suicidal. He won't submit to forced sex in jail. I mean, I wasn't asking, George. Your take, O Wise King?
It's not forced if you want it.
He went from Gucci belts to jailhouse blues. That's kind of it's not a glow up, it's a glow down.
Yeah, and and George, take a playbook out of the left. Just say you're a woman and get in with the women's cell.
There we go. That's again. It's 2025, as John Oliver would say. It's 2025.
Yeah. It's you tried to play the system and it got you. Try and try again. If you couldn't make it with bribery and stacks of gold. Wait, that was the other guy, Menendez. Whatever, it's whatever he was being trafficked in. Go with the current thing. Play
didn't
the system,
he lie?
Man.
Well, he didn't. He said that he was Jewish, right?
I don't even. It's so hard. These politicians, they just lie so much. It's hard to know. Was it stacks of gold bars? Was it Mercedes Benzes, or was it stolen valor? Tim Walz.
Well, he said
is still the governor.
Well, he said that he didn't say that he was Jewish. He said that he was Jew-ish. He said his mom died in 9/11.
I mean, at this point, Austin, you're more Jewish than he is. I mean, come on, like.
Just because I support the Zionist state of the occupying motherfuckers. Oh, salam alaikum.
You have your handler wife that's directing your every move.
Exactly. Stephanie, who has no clue about anything Israel, just telling me what to do, puppet mastering me. Welcome to the Wake Up America show. I'm Austin Peterson. Have you clicked the like button yet? If not, what the hell is wrong with you?
Click on my face.
Click on the face. Click on the like button, and then click the follow button as well. We'd love to have you be a regular guest of the Wake Up America show. Who is this illustrious, regal-dawned man that hangeth out with me? This is the king of all libertarians. Oh, wise king. You can follow him on over on X, at King Libertarian. If you go to their Rumble channel, it's at rumble.com/Liberty Tonight. And if you head on over there, you can follow their channel. They'll be on tonight from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. right after Culturama. We've got the hostess with the mostest, Daniela Pensac, coming up at 8:30 a.m. The king of all libertarians talks to us now. King, oh wise king, share with us your thoughts on Elon Musk's America Party.
I think it's a good idea.
Whoa, okay, interesting.
Yes, I think it's a good idea. I am one of those people, like, I understand the two-party system and the threat that if you take votes away from the Republicans, that the Democrats will win. But if you look at what Elon was kind of confirming through other people commenting about it, he made it sort of clear that it's not really presidential that he's looking for. And this is what I've advocated for a long time. If you look at the Mises Caucus with the Libertarian Party back in 2022, this is kind of what they did, and then going forward with that, you want 2 or 3 House members, maybe 1 senator, like how you just saw with Massey and Rand with the big beautiful bill. You don't need to have an outright majority. You become the swing vote, and now those people are the most important people in Congress. Let's just say they are America Party people. The America Party becomes the most important party in the entire country because the way they vote decides everything. So these MAGA grifters are, and by the way, for Farrar, just because you do the Trump impression doesn't mean you have to be Trump, literally. Like, come on, man. Anyways, the point is that, him and the others are like, you're going to take a vote. And that's the line. That's always been the line with the Libertarian Party. You're going to take votes for Republicans. Reframe your thinking on this. Your king commands you. What do you think a liberty person that gets voted in at the America Party, do you think they're going to vote more with the Democrats? No, they're going to be aligned more with the Republicans more than not. But there has to be that negotiation there. That's what that 10% there that gets us that fiscal responsibility, that gets us that dial back on the surveillance state. That's the only reason that the AI amnesty was slashed from the bill to begin with. 10 years of complete amnesty for AI companies to do whatever they want. It was crazy, and it was slashed, I think, in part because of Rand, filibustering or holding up on the Senate side. Yeah. So all we need is 2 or 3 House, 1 Senate, and we control everything. So if that becomes of the America Party, great. The Libertarian Party is just such a shit show. I can understand why Elon just decided to create a new one. Just throw it in the trash, create a new one. But I don't know if he thinks. Sorry?
Will you join the America Party?
I'm not really. I'm like the King Party, so it's like a one-man party over here.
One-man party.
I will consider a royal endorsement when the time comes. One-man wolf pack.
That's an excellent answer, oh wise king. Elon Musk, though, he seems to have gone on a tear. He's accused everyone of being on the Epstein list at this point. He's accused Donald Trump. He's accused Steve Bannon. And I wonder, oh wise king, your thoughts on the Epstein list situation. That seems to be where the rubber has hit the road for some of these MAGA people. Even some of the grifters are actually sounding off, including some of the well, what do we call them? The binder class of grifter?
Yes, I think Lib's a TikTok lady. She was pretty pissed from what I heard, specifically at Pam Bondi. But other folks like the Info Warriors and things like that, they have an interesting theory, which I think needs consideration. That she was like, Pam Bondi's the liability, Pam Bondi, blah blah blah. The theory is that this is all coming from Trump. Like he told the FBI and the DOJ to drop it or do whatever the case may be, and that now he's in control of the blackmail. And instead of prosecuting it and getting it all out, the extent that this goes with the intelligence agencies and heads of state and heads of corporations and investors and like everything, it would have basically if you think you're these bad guys, you're going to compromise as many people as you can. And if I go down, you're going down with me, and everything's going down with me. So if it was the case that it was a real analysis that coming out with this would have just completely destroyed the entire system, not only in government, but the financial system, everything. The other alternative is to take control of that and use it for his own good. So that if you think about how they were before the election and now, why is this such a turnaround, blah, 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 instead of it being a benevolent reason, this is maybe one benevolent reason. I'm not saying that's what it is, but if you consider it, that's what it is. It kind of makes sense. I don't know. Your Grace, tell us about your incredible show that will be premiering tonight at 9 p.m. Central Time here on rumble.com/Liberty Tonight. Yes, Duke Austin. Yes, tonight, Liberty Tonight, 9 to 11 Central on rumble.com/Liberty Tonight. Tonight is the last night that we will be in that time slot. Next week, we're taking a break. And then the last week of July, we're starting the same time slot, Culturama, Daniela, but we're going to be the Wednesday slot. So you'll have Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 7 to 9 Central, a show every night on the Wake Up or the For Liberty Network. So catch us tonight. Last time, 9 to 11. But moving forward, you can keep that same schedule. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 7 to 9. Culturama, Liberty Tonight, Culturama. We're gonna be a Daniela sandwich.
There we go, a little Daniela sandwich. You'll be the cream in the Oreo cookie. Thank you, wise king. Have a wonderful day. We will see you tonight on Liberty Tonight.
What they're saying on a subject, like becoming more extremist, and if someone was very believed in equal gender rights, but all of a sudden are leaning towards traditional values, and that might be a sign that they're becoming more extremist. But what they're saying on a subject, becoming more.
What did you say? What did you say? Signs, Royal Canadian Mounted Police say, what is a sign that you may be more extremist?
Extremist, if someone was very believed in equal gender rights, but all of a sudden are leaning towards traditional values, and that might be a sign that they're becoming more extremist. But what they're saying on a subject, becoming more extremist, if
someone's supporting more traditional values. They had supported gender equality, but now they support more traditional values. That's extremist. The tolerant left.
The fact that you had a president of the United States, or at least former president, that was running again, who wanted to put America in reverse, wanted to bring us back to a pre-1960s world. on voting rights, civil rights, LGBTQ rights, on women's rights, not just access to abortion, but access to contraceptive care.
He's going to put you all back in chains. Please. The tolerant left. Not everybody is as enamored with Gavin Newsom as Gavin Newsom is enamored with Gavin Newsom.
And California Governor Gavin Newsom is busy meeting with voters in South Carolina.
That's interesting.
The Democrat has
That's
been
a
traveling.
long flight, actually.
It seems a quite opposite side of the country. The Democrat has been traveling throughout the state, which is expected to play a pivotal role in the primary race for the presidency. Congressman Jim Clyburn, who helped resurrect President Biden's White House campaign in 2020, introduced Newsom at an event last night, adding, quote, "I feel good about his chances."
And he, of course, is talking about he feels good about his chances cleaning up the quality of life issues back in California. I mean, I gotta say, Jonathan Lemire, if Gavin Newsom he goes to South Carolina, they're talking about his presidential race. Well, let the early morning talk about 2020, what year? 8 begin. I mean, that's a guy who, if he runs, he's got a lot to defend in California. If you look at quality of life issues there, man, he's a
good fighter, though.
He's really good fighter on TV. He's really good debater, but he's got a really big pile of problems back in California.
Yeah, I'm just doing some preliminary research here. I don't see too many direct flights from Sacramento to Charleston or Columbia, in fact, there in South Carolina. Governor Newsom, we should know, not the only Democrat who's gone there. Congressman Ro Khanna, another 2028 possibility, was also in South Carolina over the weekend. And we suspect there'll be far more to the Palmetto State in the days ahead. But you're right about Governor Newsom. Certainly California has long been sort of the Republican boogeyman. We know how they attacked former Speaker Pelosi with San Francisco liberalism and the like. Governor Newsom, certainly there have been concerns about things that have happened in California, as you say, quality of life, particularly post-pandemic. Some of his handling of the pandemic also will be called into scrutiny were he to run on the national stage. But he was someone who was handed a political gift earlier this year when he became sort of the face of Democratic opposition to President Trump during those moments in Los Angeles with the ICE raids, the accompanying protests, some of the perceived to be overreach by the federal government deploying the National Guard and the like. Governor Newsom stood up to President Trump in a strong way. And that would be his pitch, guys, is that I'm a fighter here. I tackled him. I took him on in his first term. I'm doing it again now. I could represent our party going forward.
Even Joe Scarborough doesn't look thrilled at that. All right, so let's review where we're at. So we've got Gavin Newsom, the hair-gelled overlord of California, clearly polishing up his resume for the White House. And don't let his I-supported Joe Biden act fool you. The man was measuring the Oval Office drapes while pretending to compliment Joe's taste in oatmeal. The guy has run California into the ground faster than a Tesla on autopilot. We're talking about the highest poverty rate in the country, the highest state income tax in the nation, people literally pooping in the streets in San Francisco, and it's not just the activists, but the tech workers too. And now he's exporting homelessness, carjackings, and gender ideology across state lines like it's Napa Valley wine. But the media loves him. Why? Because he's the prototype. He's the algorithm approved, ESG compatible, World Economic Forum friendly candidate of the future, which brings us conveniently to our next topic, which is going to be on artificial intelligence. You see, Gavin's the kind of guy who loves controlling information. He tried to censor social media platforms during COVID. He pushed for medical censorship laws so doctors couldn't say anything that he disagreed with, if you remember. And now the left is losing its mind because Elon Musk's AI chatbot, Grok, isn't towing the progressive line. Okay, it's gone a little farther than that. It's become Mecha Hitler. Okay, that's right. Whenever Grok says something even mildly libertarian, the media is acting like it's Mecha Hitler. But now it's gone actual Mecha Hitler, right? So an AI chat bot that was run by Grok for a brief period decided to go all Adolf Hitler. You can't make this stuff up. And guess what? Another topic we're going to discuss with Camellia here in just a few minutes. Get that bonus content unlocked. I'm telling you guys, you'll enjoy it. Guess who just stepped down as the CEO of X? Linda Yaccarino, the DEI czar turned digital dictator. This is the woman who tried to turn Twitter into a LinkedIn for regime narratives. She's out, probably because Grok wouldn't use her preferred pronouns. But let me tell you, if Gavin Newsom wins the presidency, Linda, she's going to be back in the White House faster than you can say pronoun enforcement czar. All of this is coming to a head. We've got AI platforms speaking more truth than our politicians, not the Hitler AI bots, but most AI bots will speak more truth than a politician. They can't censor fast enough because the machines are now thinking for themselves. So joining me to break this all down is this woman who can't be censored, flagged, or fact-checked by a bot. That's Camellia Peterson, at Rare Camellia over on X. She's going to be talking to us about the Grok hysteria. I'm trying not to... There we go. The Grok hysteria, Linda's abrupt exit from X, and what this all means for the future of tech, truth, and tyranny. Camellia, oh Camellia, wise Camellia, are we living in a simulation or just a badly coded diversity, equity, and inclusion script at this point? All right, we'll talk about that when we get back. It's Camellia Peterson on the Wake Up America show. Daniela Pensack after that on the For Liberty Network.
Patriots, listen up. The sun's out, the shades are on, and the Gulf of America is wide open for business. This summer, don't show up to the beach looking like a landlocked liberal. Gear up with the Gulf of America collection. Towels, tumblers, shirts, hats, fanny packs, because nothing says freedom like cannonballing into liberty with style. Whether you're grilling burgers, catching waves, or just flexing on social media, do it draped in stars, stripes, and pure American greatness. The Gulf of America isn't just a place, it's a lifestyle. Hit forlibertyshop.com and roll into summer like the Founding Fathers just handed you the keys to the coast. Beaches, BBQs, and bald eagles approved. You should too. Head over to forlibertyshop.com and get your Gulf of America gear. Summer is coming fast. That's forlibertyshop.com. Imagine bringing George Washington back to life. Just to explain that in 2025, men can get pregnant, waving an American flag might offend someone, and our government is $34 trillion in debt. But that's not all, George. We have drag queen story hour for toddlers. Pronouns are mandatory. And Harvard can't define woman. Oh. And we send billions to Ukraine but can't fix potholes in Ohio. You know, just normal modern empire stuff. I'm sure he'd be totally cool with it. Right after he finishes reloading. He didn't cross the Delaware for this nonsense, but you can carry on the fight with gear that would have made King George cry. Shop bold, shop free, shop forlibertyshop.com. Picture this. It's 1776. Thomas Jefferson is hunched over his desk at Monticello, ink-stained fingers, writing the most radical document in human history. Do you really think he was sipping Starbucks? No. He was drinking something bold, something black, something brewed strong enough to fuel a revolution. That's the spirit behind Founding Flavors, our signature line of liberty-fueled coffee. No soy froth, no climate guilt, no corporate slogans. Just real coffee, inspired by the men who wrote freedom into existence. Every cup is a quiet protest. Against mediocrity, against tyranny, against bad coffee. So this morning, skip the globalist brew. Grab something worthy of a free man's sunrise. Founding Flavors. Now brewing at forlibertyshop.com. Look, not all t-shirts are created equal. Some just sit there. Others start conversations. The ones at forlibertyshop.com, they raise eyebrows, win arguments, and occasionally get you banned from PTA meetings. Whether you're repping freedom, mocking tyrants, or just making the left squirm, we've got the gear that says what you're thinking. Loud, Proud, unapologetic. Grab yours today at forlibertyshop.com because your shirt should speak louder than your neighbor's bumper sticker. When the Founding Fathers dreamed of liberty, they forgot one thing: coffee. Introducing Founding Flavors Coffee, the brew that built America, and the brew that's fueling a new revolution, one kitchen at a time. Small batch roasted, Patriot approved, and disappearing faster than a red coat at Yorktown. Don't get left behind, soldier. Real patriots are starting their mornings with Founding Flavors. And trust us, freedom tastes better with a fresh cup in your hand. Stop drinking those tyrant brews who take your money and don't support your values. Stocks are limited, demand is booming, and your morning deserves a taste of liberty. Order now at forlibertyshop.com before the next shipment gets signed, sealed, and sold out. Founding Flavors Coffee, the official brew of morning rebellions everywhere. Get yours at forlibertyshop.com.
Are you tired of the strange radioactive effects of leftist culture? Do you ever wonder what happened to good old-fashioned American values? Well, fear no more, because there's a new force fighting back against the cultural rot of today. Introducing Culturama!
The band is... You know you're not supposed to do that.
You're not supposed to do that, Daryl. You know you're not supposed to do that. Yeah, that's actually, I think, illegal in the United Kingdom. You can still do it here, but you've got to do it like the Elon Musk way. It's got to be like, my heart goes out to you. Good morning. Hi, Camellia.
Good morning.
Hi, Hitler.
You know, this is just confirming what all of the Democrats were saying about Elon and his salute from the stage back during last fall, right? Now we know why Grok has gone Nazi.
Oh, yes. Grok is now a Nazi, right? That's Elon Musk's AI chatbot. They're now being called, it's now being called Mecha Hitler. Grok told a user, not all speech labeled hate speech is actually hate. But that's not Nazi talk. That's common sense. But it did say that at one point that Hitler would be able to solve our problems. Camellia, what's going on?
I don't know. I think this is, you know, every AI, it seems like, platform so far has had a glitch in the matrix where it's kind of like gone rogue. And like, we can't even talk about, you know, the things it was saying about Will Stansel, but I mean, it's, yeah, no, it did not just go anti-Semitic. It went lots of other places. But yeah, I don't know, like and we've had this conversation about how that it has seemed like things have kind of started going downhill on X, right? And not, I mean, just
hey, my X payments are up. Everything is fine.
I know, right? That's good.
I think it's great. Just don't change anything. It's
springtime for Hitler on X.
Exactly. And now it's springtime for Hitler and the Wake Up America show. Gosh. We're doing great over on X.
So I don't know. So there have been complaints that X, the quality on Grok had gone downhill as well. And so I don't know. There's, now that Elon sort of stepped out of politics like a little bit, the idea is that maybe he's going to focus more on the quality of what's going on over at X. And of course, like Linda Yaccarino has now stepped down. It's like the timing of everything has everybody going, what's going on here? So I don't know. It'd be interesting to see who he puts in her place. But they had the big revealing yesterday evening of Grok 4. And so I don't know. I just skimmed a little bit of, what they were posting about that last night. And it sounds like there are a lot of things that are very improved. And we've talked about this before. AI is about inputs, right? I mean, like AI can't just come up with things all on its own. Like it is learning from humanity and it's learning from inputs, and it's entirely possible that, Grok went rogue because someone back there was inputting something inappropriate, right? Or taking limiters off or whatever it is. Because
I love that, like, the actual Nazis online were like, oh, the truth, it's AI is discovering the truth. They're going to silence it now. I'm like, it's just discovering what somebody has put into it.
Yes, right. And I mean, and here's the thing. I think as humans, that's part of what makes us humans, is that we have those internal limiters too, right? We learn, what's appropriate, what's not appropriate. And I don't think that it's inherent that we hate, but I think that you can learn hate for sure. And so it's the same with AI.
Yeah, it is to a certain extent. I think it's some people look at it almost in a mystical way, because it's so complicated that when people analyze AI, they cannot comprehend in totality how it's behaving. They overcomplicate it, and you've simplified it to the extent of garbage in, garbage out. But they overcomplicate it. They almost add to it a level of mysticism to grant its to have it have some special powers outside of what humans have given to it. But I wonder where this is all going, because on one hand, there is an importance when you use AI more. You'll see too. It's not just what you put in, Camellia, but what comes out does matter. And I know a lot of Elon fanboys on X are not. They're too afraid, because of their monthly payments or whatever. They're too afraid to say things like Grok, at least Grok 3, everything up to this point. I haven't tested Grok 4 yet, but everything has not been as good as other platforms. Right. The only thing that X really had in terms of its AI or even its UI over any other platform was that it was uncensored. I mean, I think that's why so many of us went to X in the first place. It wasn't necessarily because Twitter or X was a really useful website that had lots of tools that were extremely powerful. It was that it had some pretty good tools, decent tools. It's we could get good information there, but it was just that we weren't being suppressed and censored and shut down. I don't know if you've experienced that, Chameleon, much, if you've had a lot of getting banned from social media, but that's been kind of like my life story, is being censored and shut down and suppressed. So it's a big deal for me to be able to have a platform like X where we can have free speech.
Right. And here's another difference too, that I don't know that I've seen in some of the other AI platforms. Don't you think too that Elon tried to kind of imbue Grok with some personality? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because there was the whole edgy Grok, right? When the funny Grok or whatever. And so I think that there was attempts to, and I don't know that you saw that intentionally done with some of these others, and they still kind of, went rogue. But I do think there's probably a higher risk associated whenever you try to allow your AI bot to mimic that human sense of humor or approach to things, because even humans have trouble interpreting other human sense of humor or sarcasm or anything else.
But I wonder what your thoughts are on the whole, white nationalist resurgence online, specifically on X. Do you think that Elon, when they say that they cleaned up those posts, I mean, it's an acknowledgement that they know something is wrong, or that things have kind of gone too far. So I'm reading this from NPR, of all places, don't hate me. But it says that the X account Grok tagged appears unrelated to a woman depicted in the screenshot they were pulling, talking about the deadly flooding in Texas. Grok went on to highlight the last name on the X account, Steinberg, and that surname every damn time, as they say. The chatbot responded to users asking what it meant by that surname every damn time by saying the surname was of Ashkenazi Jewish origin, and with a barrage of offensive stereotypes about Jews. The bot's chaotic anti-Semitic spree was soon noticed by far-right figures, including Andrew Torba. He's the founder of Gab. He said, incredible things are happening. He's like jerking off. He says he said in the comments of Torba's post, one user asked Grok to name a 20th century historical figure best suited to deal with the problem, referring to the Jewish people. Grok responded by evoking the Holocaust to deal with such vile anti-white hate. Adolf Hitler, no question. He'd spot the pattern and handle it decisively every damn time. Do you think that Elon is... Maybe, do you think that might have had something to do with why Linda Yaccarino decided to step down? All the springtime for Hitler.
I mean, it's awfully coincidental.
People act like we don't hate Nazis as much as we hate communists. We absolutely do.
I mean, it's hard to draw any other conclusions, right? And there's so much about like AI, like you mentioned before, like it's a mystery to so many of us because it's so hard to comprehend how that works, like how you can train a machine, right, and program it to basically sort of think on its own, right, to process all this information and come to different conclusions. And so it's hard to imagine too that there's not somebody that's actually messed with that in some way. Like if Grok was not doing that, a week ago, what changed, right? Where is it? I mean, is there so much more online that it's all of us? Like, I don't think that anti-Semitism has all of a sudden, risen more in the last week, versus, the last year. But, why the sudden change? Like, there's got to be an answer somewhere for that. It's just that I don't know how that works.
Yeah. There's a lot of romanticizing about National Socialism online, but I had a mini epiphany, I would call it. And it was the other day when I was on my way down to Table Rock. I can't remember we stopped in some local neighborhood, and there was this little rundown kind of shack of a house that was flying like the Confederate flag out front. And it was like, it looked like the kind of place where the kids would be running around with like poop is still in their diapers in there for hours, the place, the kind of place that like Child Protective Services would have to like, come to. And I thought to myself, I'm like, this is the real world of like the kind of people who have these sorts of beliefs, right? Not like just the like ultra polished version that you see on X, because the real world is that a lot of these people, they when you, for example, you'll see them like marching every once in a while with the swastikas, and it's like, who would want to live in a society ruled by these people, right? They don't have their own house in order. They got no fucking teeth. Their babies run around in dirty diapers and all that stuff. And you know what it sort of has become? It's the right wing version of left victim ideology. It's not my fault I'm a loser. It's the Jews, right? It's the Ashkenazi Jews are the reason I'm a big fucking loser and nobody wants to associate with me. Maybe you should clean up your house and, flying American flags, you stupid son of a bitch.
So I think this is the downside when we talk about the digital age and everybody having so much more access to the entire world and everybody else through social media and internet platforms, that this is the downside, is those people will always exist. Like that is, and I think that is a very small portion of humanity, but I do think that that is not, impossible in our nature, right? We do have to a certain extent some innate prejudices that if we let them go and we don't unlearn some of those tendencies, that we can, fall to as like the lowest base of our nature. And so I think these people will always exist. The thing is that they weren't so easily able to get such a large platform to spread.
Right.
Of hate.
Going back to the ancient wisdoms, they're forgetting their Aristotle. They're forgetting their eudaimonia, because they go to the extremes, but that is not the well-lived life. The well-lived life is to find that middle ground. The well-lived life is to find that balance, not to go to those extremes, because and a lot of it is just the same kind of revolutionary fervor that it's like whenever like a young socialist finds Karl Marx or reads Das Kapital for the first time. I don't know if you've ever run into a lot of young Marxist socialists. I have, because when I worked in DC especially, I used to do a lot of recruitment on college campuses for like the Libertarian Party and some of these institutions I worked for. And I would run into these young Marxists, and you could see the revolutionary zeal in their eyes. Like they all spouted the same nonsense. It's all just like, and I've run into young fascists and Mussolini fans and Hitlerites, but there's far more Marxists. And when I run into these young people, they're just so brainwashed. They have they cannot think for themselves because I got to the point where I could ask them certain questions and I could and then I would wait until they were getting ready to respond, and then I would just say their response at the same time that they said it, because I knew exactly the lines that they would quote, just to prove that they were an NPC. Of course, they thought I was being obnoxious, and of course, I absolutely was. Communists, Marxists, socialists, national socialists are all just two sides of the same coin. The third way, the freedom way, the new way, the liberty way, that's the way that it ought to be. And I like free speech, and the Hitlerites can have their speech as well. But let's not get it twisted. Most Americans are not Hitlerites or Marxists.
They're authoritarians.
They're just, yeah. Actually, you know what's funny is that Brian Kaplan, who worked at Cato Institute, he's like the big open borders guy over there.
Yeah.
He did like an ideological survey, and he said that his results found that most Americans were a soft form of National Socialists. So, whoop. But that's, of course, from the most, if you're an open borders libertarian type, then I could see why you might think that way. But a lot of it has to do with the perspective of the viewer.
Sure. I mean, but the thing is like anybody who works in government all the time, like if you, or if you work in grassroots, right? You see it. Everybody is, no matter how like conservative or liberty minded people think, the vast majority of people who would consider themselves to be conservative or liberty minded, when it comes down to it, if you are doing something with the government that hurts like your lifestyle or is not serving what you think is your right or needs in some way, whether it's, you know, the ability to have food stamps or whether it is, you know, medical care, like it's all kind of a philosophical idea. And this is what we should be doing until it affects you personally. And then you don't, you know, all of a sudden a little government help is not all that bad, right? You know, so it is really hard to find somebody who, you know, truly will stick to their guns, even when it costs them personally, right? Because like individual liberty costs us personally in a lot of ways when it really comes down to it.
It's like people get mad at Thomas Massey. I'm like, do you realize just like how much he gives up by not kissing the ring? He could probably be the Secretary of Agriculture right now if he bowed, if he had kissed the ring, and he didn't. So he suffers for that. Now he has to instead of getting feted, he gets a primary challenge. Did you see Donald Trump was praising Lindsey Graham? I think it was yesterday. He posted some. Again. I was like, cringe.
Everything is upside down. That's so backwards, right?
By the way, one quick question. Do you think Jeffrey Epstein killed himself?
Oh, gosh. Well, you know, we may never know.
I kind of believe Dan Bongino, but I don't. But not the FBI Deputy Director Dan Bongino. I believe Dan Bongino before
the previous Dan Bongino.
Dan Bongino before he was Deputy Director.
Are we sure that Dan Bongino doesn't have a body double now? Probably. I think that's what's going on here. They got in there and they got replaced.
It's like the body snatchers, the invasion of the body snatchers. They've got Cash. Dan, Cash, knock 3 times. Let us know. Give us a hand signal or something. Blink Morse code. Let us know if the deep state has got you. I think with Pam Bondi in charge of that, it's just been a cluster truck. I mean, if anything, she's probably the most to blame in a large way. But also at the end of the day, the buck stops here, right? I mean, Trump did make a lot of promises about that list. He campaigned on it. He spoke the fear out. You can't tell us to shut the hell up about it after you ran for office specifically on it, saying Bill Clinton's got a lot of trouble from the Epstein list. I mean, yesterday my show was the conspiracy boomerang. Like, don't act surprised when the boomerang comes back. You know what I'm saying?
So here's the thing too. Like, if Trump was running on this and saying all of these things, he's been president once before. How would he not already know?
Right.
You know, something like it's just like that. Nobody talks about that. Like if he's saying these things, presumably he knew, what was there, or at least had some kind of idea. So, yeah, I think that's why it's been mind-boggling to see the flip-flopping. Some of the different people have done online. Even
cat
people
turds.
like. Yeah, well, and even people like John Cardillo and some of these people who are normally like on, like they're just like, I know these people, I trust these people, I trust what they're saying. I'm like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Yeah, I know
don't
these people. They would never say this. They would never do this. It's like they're the government now. Yeah, don't you understand? Like, did you forget how the government works? Like, it's like you listen to some of these people on their podcasts, you listen to them on their videos and stuff like that, and they sound like they know or they understand how government works when a Democrat's in office, but then somehow the government changes miraculously and becomes this functional body that it's defying the laws of economics. The tariffs are successful, even though the tariffs weren't laid, they were put aside. I mean, it's like everybody's Baghdad Bob. You know, Iraq is not fallen. The American soldiers are being crushed on the rocks of the Levant, and it's just, and then they want us to buy it and believe. They get mad at us when we don't believe it, and then they primary Thomas Massie. It's annoying.
Yes. Well, I just, and people are trying to come up with an explanation for this. So there's like, well, maybe the deep state is, threatening their families and their loved ones. And
well, then don't give them credit for being for being courageous, because they're then admit that they're cowards.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm trying so hard not to be totally black-pilled right now.
I know.
And I was such an optimist, coming in. I mean, I would consider for, kind of the realities I sort of expected, that I was trying to be very optimistic in spite of that coming in. But, I've griped about it before, like there's just a shift in, how they're communicating with the American public through social media. And I don't need my official White House media accounts to be edgy and, meme posting and shit posting. And yesterday, the Department of Homeland Security, posted this video about with immigration enforcement, and it was a whole, like, they're evoking scripture in it, and here am I, send me, and like quoting all these things from Isaiah. And like, there were a lot of people that were rightfully appalled at that. I mean, like, that just, when you are like, to me, that is
sacrilegious.
Well, I mean, sacrilegious, but to me, like, there are a few things that are worse than politicians or your government using religion as a tool for their political ends. Because
they all do it.
I know
they're not like us. They're not like us, Camellia. They don't think for themselves. They just do whatever the Pope tells them to do. I mean,
it's like charlatan preachers to me. Like, you're taking advantage of people who are truly well-intentioned, and this is an important part of their life.
Yeah.
And it's a basis for how they live their life, and you're manipulating them with it. I just like.
Yeah. No. I think like if I'm black-pilled or anything, I kind of feel this way. These people, like, this is not all of me. This is like maybe a small glass shard of me, but part of me thinks that these Americans deserve to be ruled. Not me, not you. Like, we are the elites. Okay, if you believe in capitalism and you believe in free markets and deregulation and limited government and individualism and homesteading and Bitcoining and all that stuff, you don't deserve to be ruled. Like you and I, we don't deserve it. But these peasants, the peasant class, like a shard of me. This is a shard of me. This is not all of me, right? The better angels of my nature prevail on a daily basis. However, some part of me does sneer at these people who desire a king and deserve one. I think what was that? Alexander Hamilton I'm channeling here. He's like, there's like a nation that prefers cowardice or retreat from courage deserves to be ruled, like is ready for a king and deserves one to some extent. Like, there is that small sliver of me. That is the black-pilled part of me that just wants to turn to the American people who demand, tax me harder, daddy, right? That just love whether they're right-wingers or left-wingers, they love their kings. Part of me just wants to be like, you deserve it. May your chains rest lightly upon you, and may posterity forget that you were our countrymen. But as for me, Camellia, speaking of the NPCs who just repeat the lines, give me liberty or give me death. Just repeat the line. He repeated the line. Repeat the line,
I was
Bart.
just trying to remember if it was Alexander Pope or somebody else who talked about, you get the new king and off goes the crown, and the new face is the old face of tyranny, right?
Yes.
I mean, like it's just one cycle after another.
Yes.
So, but I mean, I think that it's very easy to be black-pilled on this, but what are your options? We can either, because a lot of people are just like, what's the point? Quit. Like, let's just sit online and be negative and all day, and there's no point, and all these people are bad and they're never doing any good. And so, we can do that and live a miserable existence, or we can, reach for our better nature. And, sometimes people will rise to your expectations, and if we don't have those higher expectations, then what do we have to live for? There's nothing to hope for. So I do think we are capable of more and better, and that we have to keep fighting for that, because that hope is our reason for living. And because, we need legacy thinking, legacy legislating. We have to look out for Hazel Rose and, Felicity and Anna Rosa, right?
Yeah, I get so frustrated sometimes that, I just want to, throw over the chessboard, throw all the pieces and walk away. But I realize that now there is a lot more responsibility on me to do the right thing and think about her future, which is something that we'll be discussing with Daniela Pensack coming up next. Camelia, anything else that you want to share with our listeners before we let you go?
No, I will, just real quick, I will point out, because this is just like I told you before we started, at the top of my mind this morning because of issues that I'm dealing with Felicity schooling, and also some things that I saw on Facebook with frustrated parents with regard to where they send their kids for their education and the very limited options. One thing to be aware of, that we've talked about the big, beautiful bill that came out and all like the mixed bag that it was. The one thing that did come out was a school choice measure. We'll see how it goes. I'm a little bit skeptical, but it is somewhat modeled on the beginnings of what we have in Missouri, in that you can get a tax deduction. If they're not going to, stop taxing our income, we can at least get a tax deduction for donating to so that kids can get scholarships or grants to be able to go to the school that best fits their needs. So one little piece of good news that came out of the big bill.
Love to see it, Camelia. Thank you for a little bit of silver lining in these clouds. We appreciate you very much.
Have a great day, everyone.
Follow her over at Rare Camelia. That's Camelia Peterson at Rare Camelia over on X. Have a lovely day. Oh, that quote from Alexander Hamilton: "The nation which can prefer disgrace to danger is prepared for a master and deserves one." Thank you, Mr. Hamilton. Mr. Hamilton, please, Mr. Hamilton. All right, coming up next, Skinny Talk. It's the cult of the calorie. Now from tech tyrants to TikTok tyrannies, the skinny life trend is here, and it's starving your daughters for profit. Influencers are selling private group chats where young women are pressured to chase sizes not seen since the Great Depression. It's going to get weird. We'll be right back. It's the Wake Up America show on the 4 Liberty Network. Unlock that bonus content, guys. We're so close. Not many chances left. Drop those Rumble rants or go to the Grift Shop at thegriftshop.com.
Are you tired of the strange radioactive effects of leftist culture? Do you ever wonder what happened to good old-fashioned American values? Well, fear no more, because there's a new force fighting back against the cultural rot of today. Introducing Culturama, a right-of-center talk show that's taking back the future today. Hosted by none other than blonde bombshell herself, Daniela Pensack. She's not just talking, she's taking culture back. With sharp takes, brilliant guests, and a few surprises along the way. Tune in to the live video podcast twice a week, because the future doesn't have to be weird. It can be Culturama.
if there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
I think that at the heart of my philosophy is much more libertarianism than well, that's the fashionable word these days, I guess. A conservative is no longer just that. He's a libertarian and always has been.
Yet any time you and I question the schemes of the do-gooders, we're denounced as being against their humanitarian goals. They say we're always against things, we're never for anything.
What is fascism? Fascism is private ownership, private enterprise, but total government control and regulation.
Well, the trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. This is the issue of this election. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
Conservative, so-called, is the one that says less government, get off my back, get out of my pocket, and let me have more control of my own destiny.
Do you hate the deep state? Do you reject the Antichrist in all his ways? Do you believe that aliens controlled LBJ to assassinate John F. Kennedy? Did you know that the shot can put chemicals in you that will make you more sensitive to 5G? Do you love America? Do you want more freedom? Do you like smoking hot red-headed libertarians? Then the AP for Liberty shop is for you! Check out all the awesome new merch and have a happy new year! Fight the deep state, reject the Antichrist. Visit AP for Liberty shop and get your patriotic merchandise now, or the deep state wins.
Welcome back to the Wake Up America show. It's your host, Austin Peterson. Have you guys been having a good time this morning? Great. All I have to do is click the applause button and you're having fun. It's so easy for me. Click the like button if you haven't already. If today's your first time watching the Wake Up America show, become a regular viewer. Mondays through Fridays, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. That's the show schedule. If you join us live, it's way more fun. You get to hang out with people like InJam77, Mighty Megatron, L-Dubs, Joni Rankin, so many other friends in the chat, and it's nice to see you guys. So click the follow button before you leave today if it is your first time and you want to become a regular guest. If you're watching us on any other platform, welcome, love to have it. However, Rumble's the place to be if you want the live chat, if you want the lively discussions, And if you really want to help support the Wake Up America show, that's the best place to watch it. It's the only place where we really make money. Everybody else is free riders, freeloaders, and there ain't no such thing as a free lunch. Daniela Pensack will be joining us here in just a moment to talk about the hot new trend of the skinny life. And of course, the influencers have to influence it up. It's no longer S-K-I-N-N-Y. It's now S-K-I-N-N-I, so that it's kind of like cute. You know what I'm saying? But here's the story. What used to be called an eating disorder is now a business model. They're repackaging bulimia as body goals and selling it for $9.99 a month and more. And TikTok is raking in 30%. Daniela Pensack, the host of Culturama, joining us live right now. Daniela, you're tracking these trends. Good morning.
Good morning, Austin. Thank you for having me.
Yes, it's nice to see you here. This isn't social media. This is kind of like weaponized insecurity as a monetization strategy, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And, this is a tale as old as time. People are monetizing themselves and taking the opportunity to take advantage of young girls or vulnerable people and their insecurities and making money off of it. And I'm not surprised this is happening yet again on social media. And it seems like TikTok and YouTube and other platforms are trying to restrict it and fight against it, and stripping away people of their income for doing this and making money off of it. But they'll always find a way around it, especially when they get that sweet monetization. So it's a very on fire trend right now, and I'm not surprised.
If you were going to start up a subscription service right now and charge some exorbitant, what would you charge $50 a month to send you DMs, kind of like OnlyFans, but not like getting naked? If you were going to offer someone something of value that they could have access to, what would it be? Diet and weight loss is an easy one, but everybody's looking for a grift. So what would yours be, Daniela?
I mean, I guess the closest thing it would probably just be whatever the Substack platform is. A lot of people, there's this been joke going around that Substack is like the OnlyFans, but for smart people. I don't know if I would quite call it that, but I guess something to do with like writing or dispersing information. That's sort of something like what my show is about as well, is dispersing information, but in a more visual format. But something of those two. Maybe streaming is another one. I mean, I basically do that already with my show as well. So nothing I would say that's related to perhaps, showing off my body like you mentioned, or anything related to this. But that's probably what it would be the closest to is information.
Isn't it sad that like all you would have to do, like you could be a millionaire a year from now and all you would have to do is just sell out, do an OnlyFans, give up everything that you believed is, forget your master's degree. And you could be you could have your own private yacht. You could be living in Miami with a beach house and your second house in Maine or what have you. I mean, it must be tempting because as a guy, I could say it's tempting and I don't even have that option.
Yeah, seeing how saturated OnlyFans is, I don't know if I would like jump into it right now. I may make like a minor splash. I don't know if I would like break through, considering how there's been multiple articles written already about it, where it is like known to be so oversaturated that it's very difficult to even get to those like the top 10, 5% now at this point.
Let's be honest. We all know Daniela would be a top 10.
Oh yeah, especially with my following. Yeah, the Culturama following, for sure.
But I mean, it's jokes aside, Daniela. This is something that I think about these issues more than I used to because I have a daughter, and as men we can sometimes or women you can be sort of like gender blind to problems that the other sex has to deal with. And I can imagine that the pressure to be skinny, to be thin, it's challenging. I mean, gluttony is one of my favorite sins. And I have to say that the pressure on men to be skinny, it's there, but it's nothing like women. It's a vicious, vicious battle that you all have to fight, is it not?
Yeah, it absolutely is. And like I said, it's a tale of old as time, especially in the society that we live in. Women are also always pressured to be thinner. And especially now you are seeing more of this trend of, like we mentioned, on TikTok, Instagram, and elsewhere on meta platforms, where they are sort of like pushing this trend, they pose it as a health. I looked into it and I wouldn't say it's completely what people would call like pro-ana or pro-anorexia content. A lot of it is just like health and fitness and, that sort of lifestyle. And I don't necessarily have issues with that or like calorie counting, which is effective. But at the same time, there is a darker side to all of it, and everyone should be aware of it. And I certainly do not envy girls that have to grow up with the internet now. You know, when I was growing up and I was a teenager, sure, I had access to the internet, but it wasn't nearly to the degree it is now with TikTok and all this, right? And, you know, you always all face that pressure, especially as a teenage girl, looking at magazines, TV, sometimes obviously on the internet. But it doesn't compare to what's happening now and the brain rot that is attached to, you know, endless reels, TikTok, Instagram reels, where you do get faced and bombarded repeatedly with this sort of content. And it can be damaging to the psyche, especially to a young girl. You know, I'm all for heavy restrictions on the youth using the internet like this. Big advocate for families being a big role in monitoring what a child can access. But as far as adults are concerned, a lot of this, you know, content can be problematic. I wouldn't say that the stuff that is being pulled from TikTok and Instagram is necessarily should be, because I wouldn't say they're like outright promoting pro-ana content. However, on platforms like X and elsewhere, there is this like underbelly of, I guess you could say, the fitness lifestyle internet, where you do see a promotion of basically anorexia. It's quite obvious. And, you know, you do have to be aware of it. It sometimes comes up even on my feed, you know, as a female, on my X feed, like those be pro-ana content, and there's just like some girl showing off her bones. It's a very specific subculture, and they do go hand in hand. But with any subculture, with any culture you're getting into online, you're gonna have to be wary of some like weird dark aspect to it.
What happened to celebrating strength and fitness? Why is the ideal now you look like you survived a famine? I mean, because it's gotten that serious. And I know that a lot of the people that I see that are looking very Schindler's List are doing so because they're on these weight loss drugs like Ozempic and whatever the other ones are, I forget, which I'm not necessarily opposed to, because I do think that people who struggle with severe obesity, or if they're struggling with sincere overeating, or if they're pre-diabetic or post-diabetic and maybe they have a chance to get off it, I absolutely think weight loss drugs are a good thing to do. But a lot of this has to do with societal pressure in terms of like what people think is beautiful or attractive. And I think on one hand, most men probably don't want to date a female bodybuilder, although everybody has a fetish. There certainly is a following for that. But I mean, there's something, I think, you know, men would prefer to date a female bodybuilder than like a woman who, like, if you hopped into bed with her, would like slice you up with her skinny little bones. It's kind of like, it's funny, but it's true. I mean, women aren't doing that for men. They've got to be doing that for each other.
Oh yeah, it's certainly the mental illness masked as something else. Absolutely. Now, the reason why, you know, obviously every culture has its own like beauty standard, but clearly, I think if you look within the last century, the greater frequency of media and access to media that we have, especially with internet, there is this sort of like push towards achieving a body type that is unachievable for females. I guess you're also seeing it somewhat with males now too, with this, you know, gym culture, and that's huge right now, is gym culture, to the point where it does get absurd. I love going to the gym. I love fitness. Didn't always used to be that way, but it did improve my life. But there is certainly a limit, and I think that I think it's like a plethora of things. A large part of it, I do think, is the proliferation of access to media and, you know, especially internet communication and globalized communication. Some of these
women I'm reading about in this Wall Street Journal article I shared with you are actually getting demonetized on these platforms. Yes. Because, which is an interesting phenomenon. They're getting demonetized because they're telling people, you know, girls how to stay skinny and putting them into situations that are quite harmful. So do you think that, you know, should TikTok be held accountable for hosting or profiting from this kind of content, or should it just be the Wild West?
You know, I certainly waver on this position because on the one hand, you know, I was a girl once. I do see how it can be damaging. And so I certainly do believe that there's like some perhaps merit to it. But at the same time, ultimately, like within reason, I do believe in free speech. I think that most of these platforms should be zones of free speech. I understand that they're their own platforms and they have their own policies. There's certain things we can't proliferate. So that's why I say within reason. But as far as like fitness is concerned, like I looked at some of these accounts, I read the article you sent, Austin, and even though there is a connection between the eating disorder realm, like if it's like a straight up like an anorexia account, which they do exist and it's really weird, there's forums dedicated to it, that's a different situation. But when it's just a fitness lifestyle, whether it's extreme or not, I think it should exist. I do know of accounts, I do know of individuals, famous individuals, in fact, that clearly have anorexia and still and do like body checks and all that stuff. And they may not like clearly talk about it, but they still exist and they still have their accounts. And those are allowed to have accounts. Whereas fitness lifestyle, fitness gurus, they get thrown in the mishmash of that, and then they lose their accounts and their sources of income. As weird as it may be, I think making income on social media is kind of sketch. I mean, that's like your primary source of income. I think can be dangerous sometimes, especially when you're wavering and stuff like this. But
if you had a little girl, let's say that you had a daughter, and let's say she's a teenager, and she kind of came to you for motherly advice, and she was in one of these thinspo, they call them, chats. What would you say to her if she was tempted by all of this?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think that this is a thing. This is an issue with like online communication. It's not just with this topic as well. It's with many things. Is that as we broaden globalized communication systems, there's going to be greater risks for everyone involved, particularly children. And fortunately or unfortunately, we have to have more involved families, and we have to push that as a core aspect of this. And we have to have, and I completely agree with having certain access to the internet only be accessible to children through the security of like having like a two-factor authentication with parents involved, like certain security barriers that have been proposed before that children are unable to access the internet without parental permissions. And so I'm a full advocacy for that. But I think what I would say as a mom to a child is I would monitor what she's seeing, especially that I'm aware of what's out there, growing up with the internet. Because I grew up with the internet while it was a Wild West. And, unless you're very lucky, you have to be very aware of what you're accessing. So I'm aware of what it could be. And I think that, certain platforms, we should take certain controls in place. I just don't think this is one of them. I think that, eating disorder stuff, dieting, that's just something that every girl's going to go through anyway at some point. And I would just be an involved parent.
There you go. Okay. What responsibility do you feel as the host of Culturama, to speak out about this? Or do you think that, just doing so gives it more attention?
Oh, that's a very good question. Well, on Culturama, we do talk about things when they're very interesting, and it's important to talk about regardless. But it depends on the issue. There was this whole trend on OnlyFans, where you're aware, like the Bonnie Blue people. Somehow they're all from the UK. I don't know what's going on in the UK, but they all, how they had the trend where they slept with like 50, 100 men. All this. I initially started covering things like that. Because it was spicy, it did get eyes on it. And then I realized this is so sloppy. I don't know if I should continually cover this. Because, you're giving attention to the wrong people, because clearly people are profiting off of the tension, the raw attention, so to speak.
It's a real challenge for people it's a challenge for people like us. So, people who, we've got this audience here, about 100, 200 people here who are watching the Wake Up America show. And it's easy to want to try and manipulate the audience because you see other influencers doing it successfully and making millions, and it's very tempting to continue to just double down, triple down, quadruple down. Let's talk about Bonnie Blue OnlyFans every day because it'll get those viewership. But then you feel like, what is it that really is going to make us different? And that's that, Culturama, it has a mission. You have a mission in life. I mean, you're not just, like you say, you're not a regular influencer. You have, Culturama, where, it has a point. Your whole thing, your slogan is taking back tomorrow today. I mean, you kind of have always considered yourself to be a woman on a mission to some extent, haven't you?
Yeah, I could say I'm a woman on a mission. I guess that's one way to put it. Absolutely. But yeah, when speaking on the topic, is that if it's clearly an individual that is just profiting from audience or attention alone, that's a different story. That's what the OnlyFans stuff is, I think. But issues like this, where it does have to do with the current zeitgeist and the current culture of the United States or elsewhere, I'll talk about it absolutely, as even given these accounts that are being, their accounts taken away. So, but yeah. I would say that, and that is into the punditry class, they call it, or like the podcast world or the streaming world. It's a constant battle of, what should be covered, what should be covered, and what's considered like not just digestible information, but like good digestible information that is good for the soul and the mind. And it does get people to want to be involved and to change the discourse. And, sometimes they talk about some things are a little sloppy, and that's okay, but it has to be done within reason. And that's what I try to do, is also just give like good information to people. Not like happy. It's not always positive. No news show is positive, but I mean like since things that are important to talk about.
Absolutely. And so why don't you talk about it tonight at 7 p.m. Central Time at rumble.com/Culturama. Daniela Pensack taking back tomorrow today. Do you have any interesting guests or segments? What we'll be discussing tonight?
Yes, we'll have an interview. His name is Utsav. He has quite a presence on Twitter. I'll be talking with him, especially about like international policy. But it will be very fun. It won't be just boring international policy, everyone. I'll cover some things that have been going on. I know I covered the screw worm situation with Secretary of Agriculture Brooke Rollins, and I talked about it on Tuesday, and a day later they repealed back what they were doing. Now I'm not going to attribute that all to Culturama, okay? With the screw worm cattle. I don't know if people watched it. There was like this whole thing. There's this whole thing with cattle that we were going to accept cattle from Mexico. I talked about it, and she stopped it the day after. Okay, so I don't know how powerful Culturama is, but I think we're making some changes.
Very powerful. A woman on a mission.
Exactly, a woman on the mission. But no, it's going to be fun. I hope everyone tunes in. It's going to be really exciting.
Now, give me all the plugs, Daniela. So what time, where can people watch you? Where can people follow you?
Yep.
Give me that excellent plug.
Absolutely. So we stream every Tuesday and Thursday. Today it starts at 5 p.m. Pacific and 7 p.m. Central. It's on Rumble, YouTube, and all major streaming platforms, X as well. And I hope to see you there. It's going to be real fun. And I also stream every Saturday for my gaming stream as well, for all the special members out there in Rumble.
That is a great plug. Daniela Pensack, she is a streamer. She is a memer. And a schemer. Yeah. Daniela, we appreciate all you do for the For Liberty Network, and we love your show. We'll definitely be watching tonight at 7 p.m. Central, rumble.com/Culturama. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you so much, Austin.
Thank you. She gets up very early, everybody, so make sure you say thank you to Daniela and watch her show tonight.
So I was going to twat that.
Hitler promised not to invade Czechoslovakia. Jeremy, welcome to the real world. All right, folks, let's take a breath. Into the nose, out through the mouth. Because this show was a ride, we just went from the debt ceiling to the basement of Western civilization. Started this morning talking about the $36 trillion elephant in the room, the debt bomb ticking under the floorboards of America. And Congress just lighting cigars with our kids' college futures like it's no big deal. We're spending $1 trillion a year on interest, and the only plan either party has is maybe the economy will grow really hard and really fast. That's not a strategy. It's economic Viagra. Then we turn to El Salvador's Nayib Bukele, who basically told the U.S. Senate to pound sand after they criticized his Bitcoin policy. While we're over here drowning in red ink, he's up 137% and laughing and laser eyes from the balcony. The man's running his country like a tech bro, libertarian, and it's working. Meanwhile, we're trying to solve our debt crisis with gender studies funding and ethanol subsidies. Lol. The Lolberts need to be in charge. And of course, we touched on George Santos in prison. We didn't touch George Santos in prison. The reality TV crossover nobody wanted. Santos is headed to jail and already making dramatic announcements like, I'm not suicidal and I won't submit to forced sex. Sir, no one was volunteering. This isn't HBO. It's just the county jail. Oh, we are so close, thanks to Joel Ledamore. It looks like we've raised about $70 towards the $75 bonus goal. If we hit $5 more in the next 5 minutes, you'll get to watch the bonus content before we go away, and it gets deleted forever. When you unlock the bonus content every day, we say, okay, the show goes on, it'll be on next month. When we don't unlock bonus content, and I think it's only ever happened once, I have to go to Steffi and say, we didn't make it, and we need to rethink about the Wake Up America show potentially existing in the future, right? Let's not even risk it. Let's not chance it. Let's keep the Wake Up America show going strong 5 days a week, Mondays through Fridays, 7 to 9 a.m. Central, in perpetuity. We talked about the Grok. Oh, there it was. Andy Opperman put us over the top. Thanks, Andy. We talked about the Grok meltdown, where the left decided Elon Musk's AI chatbot is Mecha Hitler, and then Grok decided it was Mecha Hitler. And if that wasn't enough, we wrapped up with Daniela Pensack and the dystopia of Skinny Talk, a place where influencers are now monetizing eating disorders through private group chats. Imagine being a teenager struggling with self-image and TikTok says, hey, for $9.99 a month, we'll gaslight you into starvation and call it wellness. Weaponized insecurity, body dysmorphia with a business model. And you know who gets a cut of that cash? TikTok, the same company that censors you for misgendering someone, lets people promote malnourishment for a profit. Let's be honest, if aliens landed right now and asked for a status update on humanity, we'd have to hand them a TikTok clip, a George Santos mugshot, and a graph of the national debt and say, we're working on it. This is the point where people say, Austin, where do we fix this? You don't fix it with more spending. You don't fix it with more censorship, and you don't fix it by letting Silicon Valley decide what's healthy for your daughters or acceptable for your thoughts. You fix it by remembering who we are, Americans. Not compliant sheep. Not debt slaves, not algorithm-addicted zombies. We're the people who crossed the oceans with no GPS. We fought tyrants with muskets and homemade whiskey. We built rockets with slide rules and a little help from the Nazis, and who can still reject this insanity and rebuild a nation worth handing down to our kids. So if you're listening right now thinking, God, that was all overwhelmingly good. If you felt overwhelmed, that means you're awake. The answer isn't easy. Stop electing cowards, raise strong kids, build resilient communities, mock the liars, speak the truth, even if the AI says it's problematic. That's what we're here for. That's what the Wake Up America show is about. It's not a phase, and it's not a tumor. It's definitely not something you subscribe to in a Telegram group. This is our birthright, and it's worth fighting for every single morning, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. Thanks for joining me, guys. I'll see you bright and early tomorrow morning. Freedom Family Friday. Woo! Wake up. Stand up. Stand up for your rights. Get up. Stand up. Don't give up the fight. Some people tell me something all the time. Get up. Stand up. Stand up for your rights. Get up, stand up. Don't give up the fight. Thank you, Emma Osborne. Thank you guys to everybody who unlocked the bonus content. Hope you enjoy it. I promise to give it to you, but remember, Hitler promised not to invade Czechoslovakia. I'm out. Peace. F you. You're cool. You, the audience. And F you. I'm out. Bye, guys.
The One Big Beautiful Bill. The name alone should come with an exclamation point because it promises fireworks, but mostly for Washington's debt clock. It's a monster package with tax cuts, spending, and investments all wrapped together. But when you look past the fireworks, the headlines, and the fear-mongering, what do you get? First, the debt. This thing is set to add trillions to the national tab over the next decade. We're already $34 trillion in debt, and this bill piles on another $3 to $4 trillion. That's a parade of pickpockets moving in, stage by stage, until it's our grandchildren sending the thank you cards. The sales pitch says it prevents a huge tax increase, but independent analysis shows that was alarmism. Now it's a hazy cloud of more borrowing and less fiscal restraint. Then there's the tip tax surprise. They ran on no tax on tips. Sounds great, right? But dig deeper and it's a labyrinth of red tape, definitions, carve-outs, and endless compliance forms. The kind of bureaucratic web only Washington could spin. Invisible taxes, phantom paperwork, And yes, who pays for that? You, your employer. Somebody does. It's the old switcheroo. Promise simplicity, deliver complexity. Now let's talk fireworks, literally. Buried in the bill is $150 million earmarked for next year's July 4th celebrations. That's taxpayers funding the party. Again. Sure, celebrating is fine, but when you're adding debt, squeezing small business owners, and cutting other programs, you don't need lavish federal flyovers and a few weeks of fireworks to show patriotism. It feels less spontaneous celebration and more, your money, our show. But, and yes, there's a but, if you're like me, a proud defender of the Second Amendment, there's some good news buried in this mess. The bill eliminates that junk $200 tax on firearm suppressors, short-barreled rifles, shotguns, those National Firearms Act goodies. It's a serious gift to gun rights advocates, fixing a provision that treated hunters, sports participants, and lawful owners like criminals. That's progress. It's not perfect, but it's a rare win in a sea of spending. Poor suppressors. They used to be taxed like machine guns, thanks to Prohibition-era paranoia. Now the tax is gone, and Second Amendment groups are cheering. We've taken a step toward undoing unconstitutional firearm burdens. If that's your jam, this is a win. Finally, gun rights got a line-item moment in a massive bill, and that matters. But it doesn't outweigh everything else. So how do we feel? Debt bomb? Check. Deceptive tip tax claim? Check. Extravagant fireworks? Check. Gun rights gain? Check. Yeah, I'm pro-Second Amendment, but that doesn't mean I'm pro this bill. If only someone thought to take out the debt bomb incentive, keep the gun tax fix, strip the fireworks funding, and run. Here's the rub. That's how politics works now. They wrap good stuff in a pile of questionable stuff, cross fingers nobody notices, and hope the good stuff cheers drown out the rest. It's like saying, I'll give you a free steak dinner after you mortgage your house. Not really a deal. Let's be clear. You don't have to hate every part of the bill to call it a mess. Our debt didn't need more ammo. Our small business owners didn't need more tax complexity. We didn't need taxpayer-funded fireworks while roads fall apart. But we did need the gun tax fix. There are smarter, leaner ways to pass good policy, without gluttonous spending, without smoke and mirrors. If lawmakers actually respected fiscal conservatism, they'd pass the gun fix on its own merits. Now, I'm not saying you have to reject the bill entirely if you support 2A victories, but you can and should say, this is half right, half terrible. Celebrate the win for gun rights and condemn the rest. Demand better. Insist future bills aren't Trojan horses carrying debt and bureaucracy to get to the goodies. Here's the bottom line. Politics gives you junk bundles, but voters don't have to choke on them. We can show gratitude for sensible parts, like removing unconstitutional gun taxes, and demand accountability on the rest. We don't have to choose ideological purity or total acceptance. We can hold both sides accountable. Yes to rights. No to runaway debt and deception.